I sat in a white clinic room with my wife's hand trembling in mine, staring at a genetic report I didn't understand yet, but somehow already feared. The air smelled like disinfectant and fresh paper. The new doctor's face was calm, professional, but her eyes carried something heavier. She slid the folder across the table and said four words that split my life in half. This wasn't random chance. My wife, Sarah, and I tried for 6 years to have a child. I'm a systems engineer. I troubleshoot problems for a living. I fix things that are broken, optimize things that are slow, make sense of chaos. But infertility isn't a system you can debug. It's just loss, month after month, with no error code to trace. We started seeing Dr. Raymond Holt when Sarah was 31. He ran a small private fertility clinic across town. Older building, quiet waiting room, no corporate branding. He'd been practicing for over 20 years. Patients loved him. Online reviews called him a miracle worker, compassionate, dedicated. He told us our case was challenging but not hopeless. We went through 3 rounds of IUI. All failed. Then 2 rounds of IVF. The first didn't take. The second ended in a miscarriage at 9 weeks. Sarah didn't speak for 2 days after that. I took time off work. We sat in our kitchen in silence, drinking cold coffee, pretending we were fine. Dr. Holt suggested we try one more time with a different protocol. Experimental, he said, but promising. We were desperate. We trusted him. It failed. After that, Sarah couldn't go back. She said the sight of his office made her nauseous. I didn't argue. We stopped treatments. We talked about adoption. We tried to move on, but something in her never healed. She'd see pregnant women at the grocery store and go quiet for hours. She stopped going to baby showers, stopped talking to friends who had kids. I didn't know how to help her, so I just stayed close and kept my mouth shut. Then, 2 years later, she told me she wanted to try again. Not with Dr. Holt. Someone new. A woman doctor at a newer clinic downtown. Younger, different approach, more transparent with data. I said yes. Not because I believed it would work, but because I couldn't watch her give up on herself. The new doctor's name was Dr. Patel. She was thorough in a way Dr. Holt never was. She asked for all our old records, test results, embryo reports. She wanted to see everything before making a plan. Sarah signed the release forms. We waited 3 weeks for the files to transfer. When Dr. Patel called us in for a consultation, her tone was different. Not warm, not encouraging, careful. She had our old records spread across her desk. I need to ask you both something, she said. Did Dr. Holt ever discuss using donor sperm? Sarah blinked. No, never. Did he ever suggest genetic testing on the embryos before implantation? He said it wasn't necessary, I said. He said our case didn't require it. Dr. Patel's jaw tightened slightly. I'd like to run a DNA test on both of you, just to establish a baseline. Why? Sarah asked. Because some of the documentation here doesn't make sense. She didn't elaborate, but the way she said it made my chest go cold. We did the test that afternoon. The results took 10 days. During that time, I couldn't focus on anything. I went to work, sat through meetings, wrote code that didn't compile. I'd catch myself staring at my screen, replaying every conversation we'd had with Dr. Holt, looking for cracks. Sarah was worse. She barely ate. She'd wake up at 3 in the morning and sit in the living room with the lights off. When I asked if she was okay, she'd just nod and say she was thinking. One night, I found her searching Dr. Holt's name online. What are you looking for? I asked. I don't know, she said. Something. There was nothing. No scandals, no lawsuits. Just the same glowing reviews and outdated clinic photos. But then, I found something else. A news article from 6 years ago. Brief, buried in local archives. Dr. Hall's clinic had been investigated by the state medical board for record-keeping irregularities. No charges filed. Case closed due to insufficient evidence. I showed Sarah. She read it twice, then closed the laptop. That doesn't mean anything, she said. But her voice didn't sound convinced. When Dr. Patel finally called us back in, I knew before we sat down. The look on her face told me everything. Dr. Patel didn't waste time. The DNA results came back. I also ran a comparison against the embryo biopsy samples from your previous IVF cycles with Dr. Holt. She paused. The embryos you were implanted with did not come from your sperm. The room tilted. Sarah made a sound I'd never heard before. Not a gasp, not a cry. Something in between. What? I said. The genetic markers don't match. The sperm used in your IVF cycles came from an unknown donor, not you. I couldn't process it. My brain kept trying to rewind, to find the moment this stopped making sense. That's impossible, Sarah said. We never agreed to donor sperm. We never even discussed it. I know, Doctor, Patel said quietly. That's why I'm reporting this to the medical board. And why I think you should contact a lawyer. Are you saying he used someone else's sperm without telling us? I asked. I'm saying the embryos implanted in your wife were not genetically yours. And based on the patterns I'm seeing in his records, I don't think you were the only couple. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Whose sperm was it? She whispered. Dr. Patel hesitated. I can't say for certain without more testing. But based on preliminary markers and cross-referencing with state databases, she looked at me. There's a high probability it was Dr. Holt's. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my desk with a notepad writing down every detail I could remember. Dates, payments, consent forms, conversations. I pulled out old bank statements, insurance claims, appointment confirmations. Sarah stayed in bed, facing the wall, not speaking. The next morning, I called a lawyer, not a family attorney, a litigation specialist who handled medical malpractice and fraud. I explained the situation calmly, factually, no emotion, just data. He listened, asked questions, then said, "This is bigger than malpractice, this is criminal. What do we do? Document everything. Get copies of all your records. File a formal complaint with the medical board. And let me contact the state attorney's office." I did exactly that. I requested every piece of paperwork from Dr. Holt's clinic. They stonewalled at first, but the lawyer sent a legal demand. Within a week, we had files. I went through them page by page. Consent forms we'd never seen, lab reports with inconsistent signatures, embryo transfer notes that didn't match what Dr. Holt had told us. And then, I found something else. A handwritten log, buried in the imaging records. It listed patient names, dates, and a column labeled DS, donor sperm. Our names were on it. So were 11 others. I photographed every page, sent them to the lawyer, sent them to Dr. Patel, sent them to the medical board. Then I waited. 3 months later, the state launched a formal investigation. They subpoenaed Dr. Holt's records. They interviewed former patients. They ran DNA tests on children born through his clinic. The results were worse than anyone expected. Over a 15-year period, Dr. Holt had used his own sperm in at least 23 IVF procedures without consent. He told couples they were using their partner's sperm or an anonymous donor. He'd falsified records. He'd lied to families for over a decade. Some of those children were teenagers now. The story broke in the local news first, then went national. Dr. Holt's clinic shut down. His medical license was revoked. Criminal charges were filed. Fraud, battery, practicing medicine unethically. He released a statement through his lawyer, claimed he was helping families, claimed his intentions were good, claimed he didn't understand why people were upset. He never apologized. Sarah and I were asked if we wanted to join a class action lawsuit. We said yes, not for the money, for the record. Because what he did wasn't just malpractice, it was violation. We never had a biological child. The miscarriage Sarah suffered was from an embryo that wasn't genetically ours. The failure, the grief, the years of trying, all of it was built on a lie. Some of the other families found their biological children through DNA matching services. Strangers raising kids who shared Dr. Holt's genes. It was surreal, horrifying, impossible to process. Sarah went to therapy. So did I. We had to rebuild trust not just in doctors, but in the idea that people in power won't exploit you when you're vulnerable. It's been 2 years since the investigation closed. Dr. Holt is in prison. The lawsuit settled. We used the money to fund an advocacy group for fertility fraud survivors. Sarah and I are still together. We decided not to pursue more treatments. We're looking into adoption now, but we're taking it slow. Some nights, she still wakes up and sits in the dark. But now, when I ask if she's okay, she actually answers. "I'm getting there," she says. And I believe her. Because we're not victims, we're survivors. And we know now that trust isn't weakness. It's a boundary. And when someone crosses it, you don't forgive quietly. You make sure it never happens again. If this real-life story hit you, or if you've ever dealt with betrayal in places you thought were safe, leave a comment. And if you want more honest, grounded, emotional stories, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for listening.